A- Availability heuristic. Now, this is a really strange term, but what this is that, and what I'll do at the end is I'll send you a list of this, okay? So I'll send you a
Thank
list of this at the end, okay? Because like every good lecturer provides the notes, you know. But they give, in fact, it's not a bad idea to give the notes at the beginning, but I give the notes at the end because I'm not that organized, and I don't know how far I'm going to get. So we'll see. Um, People overestimate the importance of the information that they have. Okay, now
you.
understand it like this. We know 1% of anything that we're doing. We know and we understand 1%. 99% we don't understand. Therefore, the knowledge that we have from the little bit of information we have is actually only a
Mm-hmm.
small impression of the big picture.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, we tend to think that because we know this, but because we know this, we have to understand there's a lot more that we don't know, and maybe the information that we have, and you see this in problems. Like, so what might be the biggest problem in the world for me, like I don't know, I don't know how to cook something, might be the easiest problem in the world for you because you're like, oh, we've got everything we need. This is great.
Mm-hmm.
So with information available, it's quite possible that we're going to make a decision based on having completely the wrong set of data and the wrong set of information, which is again why we make mistakes, believing that what we know is everything. Um, but it might not be true. A lot of people argued in the past that smoking was okay because they knew people who were 70, 80, 90 years old who smoked.
Doctors prescribe smoking to athletes to expand their lungs.
Yep. They also recommended it to clear your throat as well. Yeah, doctors and dentists recommend it,
Mm-hmm.
and people still trust doctors to recommend things. But that's all. What was the experiment? The Milgram effect, where anybody wearing a uniform is automatically believed to be true. It's powerful. It's really powerful. Um,
Uniforms are very common here.
Uniforms change perspective. Yeah. So that's why the it works with everything from a business suit to a policeman, right?
Mm-hmm.
To someone working in a shop or whatever. What happens is uniform is costume and costume is role and role is acting.
Mm-hmm.
Give someone a uniform and their whole characteristic changes when they start to wear the uniform. Um, and it's really powerful. And I think it's sort of burned into our brains from a young age. A lot of the times, I think through cartoons, where
Mm-hmm.
Superman or Batman or
Yeah.
yeah, we that there's that the belief is a lot of reflection, right? If you look in the mirror and you're wearing a superhero costume, then who is to say
You
that you're
believe in
yeah,
yourself.
oh yeah, yeah, it's an amazing form of empowerment, and as long as it's used in the right way, and by that I mean like people don't get arrogant about it, right? Because that there's always that negative human display of too much self pride that is possible. It it does um, it does change how a person feels, and there's so much you can unpack. Everyone's got that superhero inside of themselves. what's your superhero? It might be an interesting activity to do with kids as well, at some point. Like what is your idea of the perfect superhero? What kind of superhero would you like to be? And there's nothing that says you can't be that superhero. All you have to do is change your T-shirt and put on the T-shirt, and you become that hero that can solve that problem. And you see it with
Wow.
kids. Yeah, give kids a superhero costume, and they change their behavior. They start acting differently, and um, the same is true. In fact, it goes back to it goes back to studies after World War II. People wanted to know how Germany got into such a big mess in between the 1930s and 1940s, and they discovered that a belief that authority was right mixed with uh, mixed with a society organized on an authoritative basis, like stripes and stars and rewards, and see, that's why it's bad in school, right? The little gold stars is how Nazism was created. That's how it was created.
Mm-hmm.
Rewarding the behavior that you like. But the truth is that you might be wrong.
You might be. Mm-hmm.
So that's something that I always have to consider within everything that I do, is that I might be wrong. And I'll be very happy that if I'm proved wrong, because then I will have to update and upgrade who I am to improve something, because obviously, there's something in my thinking that is not quite correct. And so I'll be happy to be wrong, because I will have an opportunity to learn something and correct something and be a better person. And not be worried about still trying to prove that I'm right, even though it's obvious that I'm wrong, or holding on to um, archaic beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
Don't walk under the ladder, it's bad luck. Oh, for God's sake! Right. I did let go of the superstitions that are in all areas of society. Um, Okay, so moving on. Bandwagon effect. Bandwagon effect. So this is number 3, bandwagon effect. Now, bandwagon is another name for marketing, right? Bandwagon effect. The probability of one person to adopt a belief increases based on the number of people who already hold that belief. Right. So let's say you join a group of people. Let's say there's 10 people in the group and you join the group. And let's say 8 of the 10 people in that group say that Peter is the best basketball player in the team. There's a high probability that you will form the same opinion because 8 other people already have that. Or that your opinion will be manipulated or influenced based upon their opinions, even if it's not correct.
Yeah.
Other people's thoughts influence our thoughts. And we want to be sociable people. Now, sociable, unfortunately, means holding the same set of values that other people have. And so, and so within any society, in order to be part of the community, you have to live as if the society is a church. Right? If everyone going to the church believes in God, then if you go to the church, you have to believe in God as well. Which is actually a mistaken thinking, because you don't actually have to, but you want to fit in, therefore it's easier. So there's a greater tendency to do it because it makes life easier if you do that. This is one of the reasons, again relating it to business, this is one of the reasons why a lot of businesses fail, because people just say yes instead of saying, I don't like this, I disagree, there will be a long-term negative effect from this process, and it's not a good idea. And companies fail because people are scared to say no. They always say yes, and they don't want to be different from everybody else. The the highest probability, though, as we know from our studies of society, are that the majority is usually wrong.
Mm-hmm.
History is changed by minorities, not majorities.
Because then there is the twist, something new,
Yeah,
different.
and also figure it this way: the majority is influenced by the minority. A small group of people in control of a large amount of advertising will influence a large group of people.
Mm-hmm.
Dangerous. Dangerous. So, yeah, I always think that we we need to keep within ourselves the power of the individual. It's very often lost uh, in work that we go into, or in occupations, or jobs, because it's the individuality that creates the difference at the end of the day. Yeah, people might want to work for your company, but that's not as important as working for you or with you, because you as the
Mm-hmm.
individual make the difference there. Um, okay, moving on.
Mm-hmm.
Blind spot bias, the things that we can't see.
Yeah.
Yeah, so anything that we can't see, or that is
It's
anything that we can't see still has an influence on us because we don't include it. In that respect, ask a person what would be the counter argument to their argument. Right? If somebody, I know.
strange. It's
I know, but this is a measure of intelligence, right? If you can't imagine the counter argument, then you haven't really thought about your own argument.
uh-huh.
Yeah. And here's the way to avoid arguing with somebody, right?
Uh-huh.
Don't
Uh-huh.
present the counter argument. Ask them if they know what the counter argument would be.
Uh-huh.
Right? And it's it's an insightful manipulative tactic, but it avoids. Okay, if but
Uh-huh.
if I ask you, do you know what it is? Then I don't have to waste my time explaining something, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So, do you know what the counter argument is? Well, give me the counter argument, and then I would say, well, there's more to it than that, right?
Uh-huh.
So rather than just going straight back with an opposite opinion, inviting the other person to present an opposite opinion to their own opinion first, to see how deep their knowledge is about the topic. Yeah. Ask people questions that you already know the answers to. I said that already
Uh-huh.
today.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Yeah. Um, so, for example, before my before I did the interview yesterday with the estate agent, I looked at some reports about housing in Scotland and house prices and various other pieces of data, so that I could see whether or not their data, when I asked them the questions, was the same as the data that I got. And it could be that the data I got was wrong, right? I have to accept that as well. So the first thing to do is to see if that data and that data are the same. Now, if that data and that data are the same, there's a high probability that information is correct. But if there's something wrong, then I don't know whether, I don't know if it's wrong here or wrong there. You've got to spend more time with any particular topic to be able to understand it. Um, and it's easier to see other people's blind spots than it is your own.
Mhm.
For that reason, it's also very good to say to people, I don't know what my blind spots are. Can you give me any advice on that? Or I can't see why this is like this. Can you explain this to me more? Rather than saying, I have an opposite opinion or I don't like this, say, ask the person to, can you explain more to me why this is like this? Because I'm not sure that I get it in my head and it's important to me. And I'm thinking about it. And people will, you can only have respect for people who are inquisitive about the truth. And if people get touchy about it, it's like, well, you've 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 opened a can of something interesting there, which needs to be explored more because,
Mhm.
as always, the door that you don't want to open is the door that you must.
Mhm.